We can begin now. Thank you all for attending. Thanks also for the organization of the symposium. And let's wish another 10 years from now we meet again here and discuss the contemporary issues of the time. I would also like to welcome to the panel the esteemed guests. We have together with us Mr. Konstantinos Chaelis from Lloyd's Register, Alexandros Alex Lagakos from Molgas Group, and Nikos Katsis from DESFA, the TSO of Greece. The subject of the panel today is the role of gas in maritime transportation, and it's really important because, first of all, we have several regulatory issues coming in, like the IMO MEPC 83 decisions, CBAM, and other regulations and other critical issues that the previous speakers mentioned. We will now discuss the criticality of the infrastructure, not the molecules per se, but the infrastructure and the end users that are the ships. So I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Katsis first, Nikos, to provide us some insights about the experiences of DESFA as the owner of a port facility, the LNG terminal at Revithoussa, in relation with the maritime business. Nikos?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. Yes, we are a TSO, but we have under our, let's say, ownership an LNG terminal, the terminal of Revithoussa, which is a port authority, as you mentioned. So we have very close cooperation with the maritime companies and the maritime business in general. We have unloaded up to now, since the operation of Revithoussa, approximately 800 LNG cargos, and we have specialized departments in order to assess all the details for the compatibility of the new ships, which are requesting to come in Revithoussa. So we know this business, we believe, more than other typical industrial companies. I would like to say, first of all, that we have a lot of respect for maritime business, which make us better as a company as well, because imagine that it is very important when a new ship owner would like to bring his ship in Revithoussa to come there 6 months before to do an audit and to verify that our terminal has all these standards which are necessary in order to secure and to do the operation of the unloading of the LNG with the right way and safely for the ship and the ship owner. I would like to mention explicitly how we cooperate with maritime business. Recently, in 2022, due to in the middle of the security crisis in Europe, we have leased an FSU, a floating storage unit, in Revithoussa terminal as a buffer, let's say, vessel, in order to have it always full with LNG and to have the ability to reload our tanks in case we have a problem with the coming vessels. And it was a very important experience for us. We worked with a Greek maritime company, very experienced. We create together the national legislation. Until that period, it was not possible to do ship-to-ship transshipment from one ship to another for LNG, and we achieved together with the maritime company as well as the Coast Guard to take all the necessary permits and to create the new legislation for this activity. I would like to mention explicitly the Coast Guard, although it is not, we are discussing about the maritime business, but they are involved heavily in maritime business. And according to our experience in DESFA, it is one of the best institutions, organizations that we have in Greece. They respond always very quickly, very efficient, and they help us a lot to do our job. And they support us also in the physical security of the island. You know how important the physical security of the energy infrastructures is the last years. And Coast Guard helped us a lot with new ships and tugs equipped with experienced personnel to enhance the physical security of our terminal. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the experiences, and also especially the aspect of the FSU installation and operation, because it also falls into the resilience subject that we discussed during the previous panel. Now we'd like to give the floor to Alex in order to share some of the experiences that his group has, and also I would like his opinion about the issue of LNG viability and future resilience as a maritime fuel, because we have a multitude of alternative fuels out there, but you focus on LNG and bio-LNG, so I'd like your take on it.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, Christo, for the question. Thank you. I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation. Let me briefly explain to our audience who our group is and what we do and why we are here in front of you in this panel. So Molgas Energy Group is currently the largest downstream LNG supplier and bio-LNG supplier in Europe. We operate in more than 16 European countries. At the moment, we manage a fleet of more than 150 specialized LNG semi-trailers. In other terms, the specialized trucks that carry LNG and deliver LNG to end users, as well as 8 bunkering vessels that currently operate in Europe. By downstream LNG, we mean the supply of LNG to end users belonging to 3 main sectors: industry, mobility, and marine sector. And for the last sector, our involvement in the last sector is what justifies our presence in today's panel. The broader Molgas group family, so to speak, also includes other 2 companies that demonstrate our conviction to our mission, which is clean fuels transition, which for the time being, in our minds, it has a clear leader, which is the bio-LNG. I will start answering the second part of your question, Christo, after saying this. So 2 companies that belong to the Molgas Energy Group family is Titan LNG, which is one of the pioneers of LNG bunkering in the continent, and not just in the European continent. So Titan is part of the broader group, which shows our commitment and our investment in LNG bunkering. And the second company is a sister company, also with same shareholding structure more or less, which is called Haygas, and which is aspiring to become the largest European platform of producing biomethane and bio-LNG across Europe, which already has a presence in more than 6 European countries, including Greece, with 5 live operating units as we speak, which will all be transformed into biomethane producing plants as soon as the new framework becomes legislated by the end of this month. So this shows that we put the money where our mouth is in terms of LNG for bunkering and bio-LNG overall for the market. So to start answering your question about the viability and the future-proof nature of LNG, at the moment, more than 1,000 vessels are either running on LNG or are already in order to run on LNG. It's also worth highlighting that, and probably Konstantinos has a better view on that than I do, but I would say the majority of the order book of new vessels chooses as one of the 2 fuels, LNG, as the dual fuel option. So this also shows the very strong foundation for the development and for the strong growth of this market. LNG today, in its conventional form, in its fossil form, so to speak, already achieves around a 20% reduction of CO2 for the users, and also an even more important elimination of the main pollutants, atmospheric pollutants out there, such as SOx, NOx, or particulate matter. So this is already a low-hanging fruit for the industry, which costs less and already improves the environmental profile of a vessel, which really helps with already existing regulations such as ETS2, ETS for shipping, and also the fact that since the 1st of May, the Mediterranean, so our neighborhood, has become an emission-controlled area, an ECA zone, which forces basically ship owners to shift as a base case to cleaner fuels, to fuels that have lower sulfur content. And LNG definitely qualifies as a very viable and competitive option versus traditional liquid fuels. So it has a presence, a very strong role to play in the presence, but also it is a fuel that allows the users, who are eventually the ones that make the tough calls for investments, to actually invest in future-proof assets. Why? Because simply they can start running. The only thing they will need to be adjusting in the future is the mix of the fuels they're procuring, not the vessel itself, which is very important and really helps the ship owner escape a very otherwise inconvenient position to be in. So you start running today on conventional LNG and gradually start blending it with more and more bio-LNG of the specific specifications and pedigree and carbon intensity that you wish, that your shareholders wish, that your markets demand. And eventually you reach the point where you run 100% on bio-LNG as the applicable regulations progress, such as Fuel EU or C2, CII of IMO. And in the future, 2040, 2050, you can even start transitioning to e-fuels, such as e-LNG, in order to completely forget about the fossil carbon, about the carbon molecule, and start relying 100% on RFNBOs.
Thank you, Alex. And now I would like to complement the good information that you shared with what Konstantinos would like to share about the shipping side, also taking into account Lloyd's registered track record in wider gas supply chains and technologies. So, Konstantinos.
Thank you. Thank you, Leonida. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. So, a quick intro. Lloyd's Register provides classification services to shipping for maritime transportation. So, working in the gas segment, we are having currently the leading market share in all gas value chains, so LNG, LPG, ammonia, and liquefied CO2. We are providing classification to more than 326 LNG carriers currently in operation and on order book, and more than 140 VLGCs. We're classing the first ammonia-fueled MGC carriers for Exmar and Trafigura, currently being built in Korea, as well as ammonia-fueled bark carriers for CMB in China, and the first low-pressure 22,000 cubic meters liquefied CO2 carriers for Capital Gas in Korea. This is, in a nutshell, let's say, current projects. Lloyd's Register in the gas segment are also chairing a number of major gas institutions. So, being a member of board member of the CLNG institution, where, as Alexandros mentioned, Titan, for example, is also a member. Chairing the environmental committee of SGMF. We hosted an event last week and also presented to the Union of Greek Shipowners in Piraeus. Chairing the Global Gas Center and the lovely panel that Valerie held previously. And the World Liquid Gas Association, and also MAMI, which stands for Methane Abatement in Maritime Innovation Initiative. It's a safety accelerator LR-led initiative trying to tackle and develop technologies to monitor, measure, and abate methane onboard ships. So this is in a nutshell, let's say, the activities. And I'd like to build on the question and Alexandros' very accurate and wide, let's say, overview of LNG from a recent total cost of ownerships that we have carried out post MEPC 83. For as an example, for a conventional Suezmax, the penalties that you would be facing, including the cost of fuel, EU ETS, Fuel EU, and IMO GFI, in the next 13 years, accounting from 27 until 2040, let's say, in a horizon, would accumulate approximately around 160 million. And compared to an LNGDF, Suezmax, that would drop your cost more than 40 million in that 13 years. So that significant cost saving could justify the investment in CapEx in your LNGDF, as well as the previous panel again accurately pointed out, investment in incremental bio-LNG blending and use on board, and potentially onboard carbon capture, and even, why not, synthetic fuel in the near future.
And when you say onboard carbon capture, do you have a specific technology in mind? Because I am aware, due to some projects that we were involved, that major shipping companies were examining more innovative systems that could be coupled with LNG engines in order to further decarbonize their fleet. But they were reluctant in terms of operability, certification, etc. So,
thank you, Christos. So we have, let's say, deep dive and scan the market with more than 20 onboard carbon capture technologies. So carried out quite an extensive overview of what's already out there. Although there are different systems applicable for different ship types, what we notice is still that it's a sector that is still trying to mature, and that as we speak, the technologies are exponentially developing. So what might be applicable today in the next 3 to 5 years could be quite obsolete, or could be even replaced for something, let's say, more innovative. So it's worth considering that the technology is running as we speak. We have carried out a number of small-scale pilot onboard installations with a number of technology makers, whether it's Value Maritime, Seabound, and the rest of the companies out there. On the side, we have also carried out a joint industry project with TWI from the UK on assessing the CO2 impurities on cargo tank materials. So, as mentioned before, we have LCO2 carriers being under construction with Capital Gas. We are evaluating the impurities of CO2 on cargo tank materials through TWI modeling. This is focusing on modeling and material testing, both on medium and low pressure. We have also been running for the last 2 years a carbon value chain focus group with companies, 9 now industry stakeholders like Capital Gas, Ecolog, MOL, and a number, EPS, MISC, and a number of other participants, trying again to identify and solve these, let's say, technology challenges. And what we notice is that basically the liquefied CO2 value chain can play a key role in the maritime sector, especially the transportation in the liquid CO2 form. And it's worth mentioning that LCO2 value chain is the only carbon negating chain. So what we need to see now is more investment, pressure, let's say, is on the industrial sectors to deliver efficient and scalable solutions to transport this captured storage. Last week, we attended a CRES annual meeting, the CAPE, that is organized, and companies were also there, like Motorola, Titan, exploring CO2 capturing and sequestration. So as we speak, I think this is another sector being developed in parallel, and not to forget that OCCS is applicable on any ship type, like a scrubber, irrespective of the fuel, irrespective of the ship. However, you will need to adapt on the trading profile in order to explore what systems, tank storage, etc. one might require.
You need also to mention DESFA because they are very active in CO2 projects, enabling the backbone for the transportation of CO2 and its liquefaction in order to transport it to CO2 storage in Prinos and elsewhere. That's correct, Nikos?
Yes. Yes, and I am very glad that the maritime business have all these initiatives, and we are participating in most of them, because we are doing a lot of things in order, of course, to be in the center of these evolutions. First of all, we are developing the small-scale LNG business. Okay. Now, we are constructing in our terminal in Revithousa a second, smaller jetty in order to receive cargoes from 1,000 cubic meters of LNG up to 30,000 cubic meters of LNG, and we can use this. The ships will take the LNG from there, they will be loaded with LNG, and they can go to the port of Piraeus in order to feed with fuel the big ships which are there, so to do the bunkering business, or to create satellite stations where small LNG tanks will be located, and from there we can feed with LNG ourselves or mainly the distribution networks. They will take the LNG from there, regasified it there, and send it to the distribution networks, also industrial customers. And of course, we are working heavily on this project, which we believe it has a lot of, it has a very good future. We are discussing also with other ports, and we are trying to find synergies and cost efficiencies in order to construct satellite stations, LNG satellite stations within other ports, like the port of Igoumenitsa, for example. It would be a very important evolution if we achieve to do that, because from there, with trucks or with networks and pipelines, we can send the gas to all the areas in Western Macedonia and Epirus that currently they don't have pipes in order to have natural gas there. Except the small-scale LNG business, which is we are working a lot on that, we can discuss also about the liquid CO2 and the carbon capture. We have a project which is called Apollo CO2. We are working with with Ecolog, which is a subsidiary of Gaslog on that, in order to promote this idea. Our main goal, and this is the big benefit of this plan, is not only to do the carbon capture, but to collect all the CO2 emissions from the big emitters in the area, cement companies, refineries, in order to transfer them with pipelines close to Revithousa, in Revithousa, not close to Revithousa, and there to take advantage of the cold energy that we have on the terminal, which means that we can transfer this cold energy from our LNG to CO2. We are going to regasify our LNG with the hot CO2, and at the same time we are going to cold the CO2 and convert it to liquid CO2 on the island, and from there, with a new cargo, with a new FSU, let's say, that we are going to lease, we are going to load it there, and again with ship-to-ship transshipments, we are going to transfer this liquid CO2 to the underground storages, which are going to be converted in order to be storage for CO2, like Prinos, like Ravenna in Italy, like Egypt, and other places that they are developing underground storages for this region. So I believe, and from what I hear, we are very well placed in these new businesses. And of course, the maritime, because this is let's say the main session of the today discussion, will play a significant role with the one or the other way in all these issues.
It is very hopeful to hear that the TSO has not a very old school traditional view, but you are proactive and you are engaging with other industrial stakeholders in order to explore not only business opportunities, but also enabling new value chains. Because if you do not have the liquefaction or the storage terminal, there would be a bottleneck. Of course, other bottlenecks may appear in the value chain, but this is a critical role from your side, so it's really important.
This is very important, I will close with that. As a TSO, we have this obligation to open new markets as much as we can. The truck loading facility, for example, in Refusa is one typical example on that. We implement this first truck loading facility. Now the market is opening. A lot of trucks are coming on a daily basis on the terminal. And I believe this is a big advantage for us and for all the other companies, like the companies of the panelists in this discussion.
I wish you a few more trucks increase in the coming months. But Alex, I would like to ask the following. Given the increasing demand for LNG, we have also to address the increasing scrutiny over methane slip, as well as other life cycle emissions that one might, point out about using LNG. So, what is in your mind and in your plans as a critical member of the gas industry to address those concerns and also to ensure the use of LNG not in the near-time future, but long-term?
This is a very important topic. Before answering that, I would also like to comment. I'm not given this opportunity very often to do this in public, but I wanted to echo the very positive remark that you mentioned about DESFA after Nikos's remarks. And I also want to comment as a customer of DESFA that indeed we are very happy that our TSO, our Greek TSO, has a customer-oriented approach in the projects that they developed. It's not just throwing money in a bin just to produce new assets. Indeed, the people, and I would also like to thank personally Nikos and his team with whom we work on a daily basis in order to solve problems and in order to help Greek LNG make it all the way to Central Europe. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank you, Nico, also in public and your team for this approach. Now, coming to the important question of methane slip. Yes, I don't think that the industry should be afraid of addressing openly this topic. And if you ask my personal opinion, I don't have any illusions that this topic will not be an important topic for the public as part of the public discussion in the years to come. The good thing is that the industry is already reacting preemptively or ahead of this public discussion heating up. First of all, the manufacturers themselves, they are focusing, they're working on reducing methane slip on the combustion level, on the management of exhaust gases, on promoting closed loop systems. At the same time, we as suppliers, we are doing our best in terms of mitigating this, but also we're never negative in getting audited and verified and measuring the methane emissions. I think it's important so that we give to our customers the confidence that indeed they are contributing to an environmentally friendly solution. And I think the key theme for our industry is that we are always looking at things from a life cycle perspective. And from a life cycle perspective, even the current studies that are out there show that even if methane slip and methane emissions are taken into account, still overall on a life cycle basis, bio-LNG, and especially bio-LNG, remains a very attractive fuel and value proposition for the customers. And one final point on that, I think it's important, as soon as we start measuring methane emissions, I think it's important to come up with a system where somehow there is, let's say, a benchmarking, a common benchmarking across all the greenhouse gas emissions, so that this acts as an incentive for the industry to start promoting even lower carbon intensity scores or even negative carbon intensity fuels. Bio-LNG, and that's one of the beauties of this fuel, really offers a wide span of specifications, really tailored and customized to the actual needs, the specific needs of the end user. The solution is out there. The industry should not be afraid to be audited and measure any issue such as methane emissions, and this doesn't at all change the story, the narrative, or the actual reality that LNG and bio-LNG in its future-proof form remains one of the most attractive energy transition solutions out there.
Thank you, Alex. Konstantinos, building on what the previous speaker said, do you believe that you could single out a specific, let's say, opportunity or challenge in order to let's say, to see the rapid development of the LNG in the maritime transportation? I mean, we have discussed, for example, one concern, and Alex also raised the point about what can be done and what you could think of and plan ahead in order to raise that concern and, you know, implement LNG as a sustainable fuel. But from, you know, your communication with the clients, with the industry, with the stakeholders, do you see some opportunities but also challenges that are occasionally raised apart from that?
Thank you, Christo. I think I would agree that the major challenge and at the same time the biggest opportunity is basically stop leaking methane across every part of the progress and irrespective of the origin of the emissions. So this involves both the well-to-tank and tank-to-wake aspects. In this sense, we would need to build a methane-proof, let's say, value chain and consequently methane-proof ships. And this would mitigate this greater risk that the sector carries. As part of Lloyd's Register, we have run a methane abatement pilot installation with a major Greek shipping company using Daphne technology, where, let's say, both the plasma and catalysis technologies were explored, and it was achieved, let's say, abating methane. So we, as Alexandros mentioned, we were able, through the Puremetrics onboard system, to measure the values and see the capturing rate on real data. So I think this gives us real sense of, you know, efforts being taken and being validated. This is another scope we are trying to address through MAMI, as I mentioned before, where we have 20 major industry stakeholders, including Shell, BP, Total, and a number of shipping companies and charterers. We have scanned over 200 technologies that are being able to measure or abate methane, and progressed with over 20 feasibility studies, again, in pilot onboard installations. So we have developed a methane measurement protocol, again, echoing what Alexandros said, having something, a unified approach. We know that, let's say, SGMF is trying now to carry out another LCA on LNG emission factors to be submitted for GESAMP approval, which will be in more favor of the actual carbon factors and the methane slip, with the real data, again, from the LCA perspective. And I think we need to, again, echo the efforts being taken from the engine makers, where, you know, given the low pressures and the high pressure engines, whether it's MEGI or Mega or an XDF now 2.2, we see improvement in methane slip being reduced. So I think this is worth noting. Obviously, again, another opportunity would be the fact that with the reduced carbon footprint and the less greenhouse gas emissions using LNG as fuel, and in an incremental bio-LNG blending in the short to near term, one can extend the asset life, the life of the asset, basically the ship, so beyond what would be in other case now challenged with either conventional or in the current CII, let's say, scenario. So this asset life extension gives more runaways, justifying again the capex and the opex, let's say, that we said from investing in LNG dual fuel technologies.
Thank you. This is, you know, this is a challenge that many of us do not realize immediately, because once you consider that you have placed, let's say, a good 80 or 100 million on a vessel, and you see it depreciated in, you know, due to regulations enforced in, you know, well before its time, this is something that makes you think what solutions that we can we implement in order to extend the useful life of the asset. So this is something that we do not see, you know, especially in some land-based assets with that capex, but it's very useful to see that you explore also some pilot applications and different solutions. I would like to extend a question to all of you, and you know, I hope it gauges a discussion between the panelists. And the question is, do you see end-to-end supply chain technical or operational barriers for the use of gas in maritime transport? And feel free, you know, if you have complaints between yourselves, you know, I know you have customer relationship, but we also have Lloyd's Register here. Feel free to discuss lively.
Yes. We have to say also the problems that might arise, but to tell you the truth, as I mentioned before, we are two different sectors, the energy sector and the maritime sector, and we are exchanging experience. This is very, very important. We are going to have a new LCO LCD02 carrier in Revithousa in order to load our liquid CO2 emissions. We have FSRU in Alexandroupolis, where we are participating with 20%. Other FSRUs might be needed, of course. Always we should be conservative enough, because we are a TSO, okay, and we should have conservative forecasts concerning the future and how it will go. But currently, it seems that the natural gas, of course, we know that it is a bridge fuel, and in the near future other fuels will prevail, but still it seems that the consumption is very, very high in Greece, especially in Greece, with the new power plants, electricity power plants that they are constructed. But in any case, we believe that the FSRU business is something that is under development now. Okay, we have one in Greece, except Revithousa, one FSRU. Others might be needed. There are a lot of plans for developments. We will see. What I would like to share with you is our experience with the FSRU of gas trade. It is important that the maritime business have the knowledge of transfer of LNG. Okay, but they didn't have the knowledge of regasification of the LNG on the deck of the cargo. So there we believe that in very, very close cooperation with companies like Gas Trade that we are participating and others, we are trying to solve problems, because the regasification business is totally different from only to have an LNG carrier transporting the gas from the one port to the other. Okay, and this is very important. as far as DESFA is concerned now, and how we believe that maritime business will be increased in the near future, especially for the LNG, is our participation to projects like the vertical corridor, which means that if this project will be a successful one, it might create opportunities for new FSRUs to be implemented in the Greek market. Because as a TSO, and I believe this is for the benefit of the maritime business, who are constructing FSRUs and who are trying to find other ways to increase the life cycle of their cargoes, to create new FSRUs in the near future, if we have the market in Central Europe, it will be beneficial for all of us, for companies like DESFA and TSOs, but also for the maritime business. Because our scope and our target is very clear as a company. We would like to have Greece as the new entry point of LNG in the southeastern, at least southeastern Europe, and Central Europe and Eastern Europe in general. This is our scope, and we can work together with maritime business in order to find solutions and to exploit this opportunity.
I would like to continue a little bit the discussion and answering your question by highlighting, I think, one of the important interventions that needs to be done. And this doesn't have to do with new assets, does not have to do with new infrastructure, it has to do with regulation. And I will give 3 examples where I think we should be putting a lot of effort to alleviate those bottlenecks. Number 1, and we can follow the example of Italy, which a couple of days ago announced that they have issued a national framework, national guidelines for the operations manuals of all Italian ports of how LNG bunkering is going to be performed. In other words, this is a huge support to every Italian port that wants to embrace LNG bunkering as an operation. In Greece, we still don't have a single operations manual issued from any port authority, and every port authority is on its own to actually do so, and nobody's really pushing any port authority in terms of the government to actually have this sorted out within a certain deadline, because this is a must and not just a nice to have for the ports. Example number 1. Example number 2 is, and probably that's a suggestion for DESFA, in the new infrastructure that's being constructed, it's very important that the regulation is also targeted to the specific needs of the segment that it is expected to serve. For example, we see that in Spain, and we hope to see something similar in Greece, very competitive tariffs on a per megawatt hour basis for the reloaded LNG on small stems. That's very important in order to safeguard the competitiveness of the product. But also, if you look at ADE, for example, the tax authority, it's important to convince them, and we keep on trying to do so, and I think we get very receptive ears, which is a good sign, that LNG bunkering has some fundamental differences to conventional bunkering. So therefore, given the fact that LNG bunkering does not allow for fraud or for stealing due to the nature, due to the physics of the product, therefore the regulation needs to be adjusted, adapted to the specific needs of the product. Just to give you a very quick example, if you're doing oil bunkering, you can only load the quantities that you can prove that you have already sold, that are going to a specific customer. With LNG, it doesn't work this way. You will always fill up your ship, hoping that you will sell part of the volume to any spot request that will come at a very short notice to your vessel. So that's a key case. And finally, I know that shipping is an international play, but in order to incentivize investments and in order to make sure that there is, a permanent LNG market, a permanent LNG base in Greece, it's important to give the incentives to create a local LNG ecosystem regarding ferries and local shipping, Greece-bound shipping. because in this case you can create a base load of customers that will really enable any new investments in new bunkering vessels, in new infrastructure, and of course it will make LNG available for any cruise vessels or any Trump shipping that will be crossing the Aegean.
I think very interesting thoughts, and echoing from my co-panelists, I think I'd like to highlight again regulation, definitely. The fact that we would need to unite and provide the advocacy that the industry needs. So, you know, I think one of the main barriers we need to consider are also other options, alternative fuels. So, you know, on one hand, you have ammonia, which is a potential zero or near zero emission fuel. You have methanol, and companies like Maersk or nations like, you know, the North Europe have been strong advocates of their options for their own benefits and reasons. So in this case, what we need is the advocacy, a single voice, uniting all together, and basically supporting, you know, what we see, whether it's LNG, biomethane. We see that at the moment we are lacking this. During the MEPC week, you know, there was a strong voice from contestants and competition and other things. So I think this is one barrier that we need to be mindful. And especially, as I mentioned before, with SGMF, for example, now raising funds for carrying out an LCA. I mean, an LCA analysis can cost from 200 to 300,000. So it's important that we support such initiatives which can provide better and more actual reference values, especially for LNG emission factors that would be submitted to GESAMP and that would be taken into consideration in the next, let's say, MEPC. So if we have this fundamental support as well, that would enable us even faster adoption and development.
Thank you, Konstantinos. It is very useful to have this feedback during this last round of discussion, because, you know, if you gather all the points, and even more so, and address them to the proper contact points and competent authorities, then you would indeed alleviate a lot of bottlenecks and enable the use of gas in the maritime sector. Of course, we need to establish, you know, specific arguments, technical information, etc., to underpin those comments. We are well on time, and I would like to provide you the floor for one final remark. Let's hope it's a positive one.
Yes, it would be a positive one. We have to work with the maritime sector in parallel. We have many things to exchange experience. The goal is always, yes, to promote. We have to do things alone sometimes and not to wait only from the state or from the regulatory framework. The regulatory framework will be in place. And all the companies should take also the necessary FIDs, final investment decisions for projects, with a relevant risk, and not to transport all this risk to the government, to the TSOs, to other companies. We have to work all together in parallel, in a balanced way, to find a way to promote the business.
I will close with a 1-minute pitch, addressing this to the audience, but also to the people that are watching us outside the room, that we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about the future. It's important to highlight that something about the present, that today, whoever needs LNG or even bio-LNG for their vessels in Greece, this is operationally readily available on a truck-to-ship or on a multi-truck-to-ship basis. So this is a reality, and this will soon be also cleared from a regulatory perspective in the port of Piraeus in the months to come or weeks to come, so to say. So, you know, whoever is thinking about it, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I think that, you know, through this panel we've tried to capture a number of energy and gas activities and highlights that are currently being developed and taken, and I think it's been very interesting. So I would echo again the fact that we need to unite our voice and provide the advocacy that the industry needs. I think Valerie's closing remark is also worth mentioning again, that we do need all options, but at the same time we need to be pragmatic and realistic. So the fact that you have a long-standing value chain developed like LNG with bunkering availability, pricing available. I mean, from our side, we see more and more, especially now, LNG bunkering interest increasing. We know that we might be short of LNG bunkering vessels. You know, at the same time, shipyard capacities are at their fullest, so that would be another challenge. Currently, you would order an LNG BV, but the price is also quite a challenge. So, you know, even the owners are while they see the demand, they are also trying to be cautious, but they want to invest in that. So I think overall there is great potential ahead, and definitely the next few years, especially with the MEPC finalization, will, let's say, prove the longevity of gas and LNG. Thank you to you, Christo, and to our co-panelists.
Well said. Thank you all for participating, and once again, thanks, Hae, for hosting us.